Hey friends, and welcome back to the NeuroSpicy MomPod, the cozy corner of the internet where we unpack life through a neurodivergent lens with a little humor, a lot of heart, and absolutely zero judgment. I'm your host, Austin Marie, a former teacher turned advocate, creator, and mom who's passionate about helping us understand our brains, our kids, and our nervous systems with more compassion and curiosity. If you're new here, welcome, truly. This podcast is for those of us who grew up undiagnosed or misunderstood or masked our way through childhood and who are now learning to reparent ourselves while parenting or caring for neurodivergent kiddos of our own. My mission is to give a voice to people who have never quite fit the mold, to offer science-backed insight wrapped in warmth and community, and to remind you that there's nothing wrong with the way your brain works. You just live in a world that wasn't designed for it. Every week, we blend psychology, neuroscience, and a dash of woo-woo wisdom to explore how we can heal, grow, and show up for ourselves and our families in ways that actually feel good. So grab your coffee or your noise-canceling headphones and settle in. Today, we're diving into something I think so many of us can relate to: school refusal. You might have heard it called school refusal or school distress, but underneath all those labels is one simple truth. Sometimes our bodies say, I can't, even when our minds say we should. Let's talk about what that really means and what the science says about it. Let's start by understanding what school refusal actually means. Clinically, the term school refusal describes a pattern where a child consistently resists going to school or struggles to stay there, not because they don't value education, but because being there triggers emotional distress. It isn't a diagnosis on its own. It's a behavioral expression of anxiety or overwhelm that can stem from things like separation anxiety, social anxiety, depression, or sensory overload. In neurodivergent kids, it often connects to a nervous system that's easily pushed into survival mode by unpredictable environments. For my youngest, today at drop-off, we were doing our usual school pep talk. All right, you're going to have a great day. When asking what he was most nervous for, he said, becoming overwhelmed. And when I asked, what overwhelms you the most? He replied, all the other children. There's 20 other students in his class. It's just the sheer numbers of children and movement that's out of his control that overwhelms him. This has manifested in him having a harder time getting to school because he's anticipating the overwhelm that he's going to feel. The signs of school refusal can look different for every child, but they often share the same root: distress. For some kids, it shows up as panic attacks or full meltdowns before school. For others, it looks like physical symptoms, those mysterious headaches, stomach aches, or waves of nausea that magically fade once the pressure to attend is lifted. You might see tears, tantrums, or total shutdown when it's time to leave the house. Some kids become master avoiders, stalling for time, missing the bus, or spending half the day in the nurse's office. And while adults sometimes read these behaviors as defiance or manipulation, they're actually signs of a nervous system in overdrive, trying desperately to find safety in a world that feels overwhelming. Studies show that roughly 2 to 5% of school-aged children experience school refusal at some point, and the rates skyrocket among neurodivergent students. One study found that nearly 9 out of 10 children experiencing school distress were autistic, ADHD, PDA, or sensory sensitive. Their struggle usually isn't about the academics. It's about the environment. Think about a typical classroom: bright fluorescent lights, constant noise, unpredictable transitions, and nonstop social demand. For a sensitive nervous system, that can feel like standing in the middle of a storm. When that happens, the brain's stress circuit, called the HPA axis, kicks in and releases cortisol. When that system fires every single day, the brain shifts from learning to surviving. The prefrontal cortex, which manages focus and memory, essentially goes offline while the amygdala stays on high alert. So even though a child might be sitting at a desk, their brain isn't in a state that can actually absorb or retain information. And yet, in our culture, attendance is treated as the ultimate marker of success. Those perfect attendance certifications, the proud morning announcements, but we rarely stop to ask, at what cost? For some kids, showing up every day means burning through every drop of emotional fuel they have just to appear fine. When we understand school refusal through this lens, it stops being a behavior problem and becomes a communication problem. The child's body is saying, this environment doesn't feel safe enough for me to learn. Our role isn't to silence that message, it's to listen to it and respond with curiosity, with compassion, and the willingness to change the environment instead of trying to change the child. So let's widen the lens, because this pattern doesn't magically vanish once childhood ends. School refusal doesn't just magically disappear when we grow up. It changes its shape. As adults, we might not call it school refusal, but we live out the same patterns: avoiding work, canceling plans, freezing before a deadline, or endlessly procrastinating. Underneath those behaviors is the same nervous system message we saw in kids. This feels unsafe. When a child experiences chronic stress or overwhelm in school, their body learns that high-demand environments equal threat. Later in life, our brains can still pair that same psychological response with any setting that feels familiar, like a demanding job, a noisy workplace, or even social situations that echo the same power dynamic. And I'll be honest, this part hits home for me. My own nervous system was trained to expect stress every time I walked into work. As a teacher, I started having panic attacks on the drive to school. I'd sit in my car gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe through a racing heart before walking into the building with a smile. My brain had learned that work equals threat. Part of that was because my school environment was particularly toxic for me personally, but also because it was chronically unsafe. We had frequent code red drills, and each one sent my body into full survival mode. Over time, even the sound of the intercom made my heart stop. A sudden noise in the hallway would spike my adrenaline. I was constantly scanning for danger, always thinking about what I'd do if something did happen. That constant vigilance created a low-grade PTSD-like state where my body never truly came down. So even though I was just teaching, my nervous system was living in crisis. And even now, 2 years out of the classroom, running my own cleaning business, doing something I choose, that same body memory still shows up. When I'm headed to clean for a new client, I can feel that same tight chest, that same adrenaline surge, like I'm back in that parking lot again. Different job, same stress response. That's what conditioning looks like. The nervous system still primed for danger, even when the danger is gone. Neuroscience calls this conditioning of the stress response. The body becomes primed for danger, and even mild triggers can activate the same pathways: rapid heart rate, rapid heartbeats, shallow breathing, and that heavy dread that lays underneath our ribs. Polyvagal theory helps explain it. Our vagus nerve acts like a bridge between the brain and the body. When it detects safety, we can connect, communicate, and problem solve. When it senses threat, we drop into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. For many neurodivergent adults, chronic masking or performance pressure keeps that system stuck in survival. We live in fight mode, overworking, flight mode, avoiding, freeze, paralysis, or we fawn with people-pleasing. From the outside, it can look like executive dysfunction or laziness, but from the inside, it's a body that's begging for regulation. It's not a lack of willpower. It's the biology of protection. Research on burnout shows that people who spend years in dysregulating environments, like students or teachers who are forced to push through constant threat, carry elevated cortisol patterns into adulthood. Their bodies literally adapt to anticipate stress. That's why rest doesn't always feel restful at first. When your body has lived in crisis mode for too long, stillness can feel unsafe. Healing starts when we offer small, consistent doses of safety, soft lighting, quiet moments, supportive people to reteach the nervous system what calm actually feels like. So when you catch yourself avoiding a task or feeling frozen before something important, try reframing it. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What is my body protecting me from?" That question alone shifts us from shame to curiosity, and curiosity is where healing begins. That experience taught me just how deep those patterns can run, and why the work of healing our nervous system has to start with safety, not self-discipline. Because when we lead with safety, both for ourselves and for our kids, everything else, the regulation, the learning, the showing up, it finally becomes possible. So how do we help our kids and ourselves move through refusal patterns with compassion instead of control? The short answer is we focus on safety first, attendance second. We can't force regulation. We can only co-create it. For children, that means starting with emotional validation. Instead of, "You have to go to school," try, "I see this is really hard for you. Can you tell me what part feels hardest today?" That one sentence tells their nervous system, "You're safe with me." Once you know what triggers the distress, the noise, the social pressure, unpredictability, or like in the case of my son, just the sheer amount of children in one room, you can collaborate with teachers on supports, sensory tools, calm down corners, flexible schedules, predictable routines, or creating a safe space for them to go hide away and regulate, away from all of the children. Even small adjustments communicate safety. From a psychological standpoint, what helps most is co-regulation, your calm body helping their body find calm. When adults model grounded breathing, lower speech, and empathy, children's heart rates literally synchronize and their stress hormones lower. For adults, the work looks similar but more inward. When avoidance or burnout shows up, pause before self-criticism. Ask, what does safety look like for me right now? Sometimes it's 5 minutes of quiet. Sometimes it's texting a friend or stepping outside. Each moment of self-attunement teaches your body that you can meet your own needs. Therapists often talk about building a regulation menu, a short list of sensory or emotional resets that work for you, like stretching or journaling, a certain scent, movement, nature, creativity. The goal isn't perfection. It's to remind your body that you have options besides collapse or overdrive. Remember, regulated adults create regulated children. When you hold space for your own nervous system, you model nervous system literacy for them. That's reparenting in action, teaching both your inner child and your real child that safety doesn't require performance. Which brings us to right now. Let's take a moment to breathe together and practice what we're talking about. Wherever you are, pause. If you can, place one hand on your heart and one on your belly. Inhale slowly through your nose. Hold for a moment and exhale gently through your mouth. Feel the weight of your body being supported. The chair, the floor, the ground. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Soften your gaze. Notice your heartbeat. Let your breath remind you that you are safe right now. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your worth by doing. You are allowed to pause. Let's take one more breath together. Inhale, hold, and exhale. There you go. And let's carry that calm with us. Today's small business shout out is for my own little corner of creativity, the NeuroSpicyMama.etsy.com. With the holidays coming up, I want to remind you that when you shop small, you're supporting real people, especially creators who pour their lived experience and love into what they make. On my Etsy shop, you'll find affirmation coloring books, cozy pop culture merch, and customizable gifts made with intention and NeuroSpicy magic. Every order helps keep this podcast going and supports a single mama building something from scratch. If you're looking for a thoughtful, personalized gift this season, visit the NeuroSpicy NeuroSpicyMama.etsy.com. And thank you for supporting independent artists and neurodivergent creators. Thank you for spending this time in our little NeuroSpicy corner of the world. Whether it's your child refusing school or you avoiding something that feels too heavy, remember, your body isn't broken, it's communicating. Our goal isn't to force ourselves or our kids to fit systems that harm us. It's to create safety, rest, and space for real growth. Here on the NeuroSpicy MomPod, we're learning to listen to that wisdom, to reparent ourselves with the same softness we give our kids. If today's episode resonated, please share it, leave a review, or join the Patreon. It truly helps this community thrive. And don't forget to visit theneurospicymama.etsy.com to shop small and support the creative heartbeat behind this podcast. Until next time, breathe, rest, and remember, you are enough exactly as you are. I'll see you next week on the NeuroSpicy Mom Pod. Ta-ta!